putting an individual who's not used to that pressurized situation in that role would be part of the fail. And certainly when you look at catastrophic incidents, part of the fail concerning the Duke's mother back in 1997 was the fact that an individual was driving a car, not familiar with that car, not trained with that car, and obviously he was intoxicated. It's an extremely difficult situation because you are dealing with a group of individuals who don't play with any rules. Very different to the regulated press here in the UK, but even the UK paparazzi don't play with any rules. So it is a difficult situation, and certainly in my time as a protection officer, we used to always try and engage and communicate with these people and explain that this is a protection operation. There is a reason for us being here. We're happy for you to take the pictures that you want to take. However, you will not chase the car, you will not block the car in, and you will not step out of the line or the spot that we've put you in to take that picture. So there's an element of negotiation, but of course sometimes that doesn't work. So you have to factor in how you're going to deal with the paparazzi. How you're going to get from A to B is always part of your protection plan, but you've got to factor in maybe a place of safety and indeed some form of law enforcement involvement, because it may switch, and as it did with this incident, from a security operation to a public safety operation. And somebody on the law enforcement side then has to get involved to support that before the situation deteriorates.
And I suppose that's the nub of it for lots of people listening, because they might wonder, well, look, Meghan and Harry would have expected, as you've just said there, that there would be photographers at this event. They would have expected that they would be followed potentially in their car. Does this come down to a lack of planning? I mean, why on earth, for example, did they get out of the car that they left the event in and get into a random taxi? Because that seems to be a very strange decision if you're very worried about what's happening around you.
It does from the outside, but certainly the actual protection team would have had a plan. Their private protection team would have had a plan, and the paparazzi would have been factored into that plan. When you put a protection operation together, you look to mitigate the risks, and then once you've done that, you have to put a series of contingencies in place. It's the protector's officer's world. What if I do this and that will happen, and what if I don't do that? What will happen?
But would you ever, Simon, have put in a contingency of getting into a cab in New York City? Would that have ever been part of your plan?
It's difficult to say because I sit here in the cold light of day and with the value of hindsight. If you look at the scenario that a London taxi, for argument's sake, can use a bus lane, can turn right and left where other cars can't. So it may have been part of that. One of the concerns for me would be putting somebody, a protected principal, in a vehicle with a driver who is not trained at a security level. Part of that protection package with the Sussexes is to have a protection trained driver. So therefore, they're all thinking the same way. They're all singing off the same song sheet. So putting an individual who's not used to that pressurized situation in that role would be part of the fail. And certainly when you look at catastrophic incidents, part of the fail concerning the Duke's mother back in 1997 was the fact that an individual was driving a car, not familiar with that car, not trained with that car, and obviously he was intoxicated as well. So yes, it does seem a bit of a strange situation to transfer cars, but there may have been a rationale that an element of subterfuge and an element of being able to move quicker through the traffic by using a taxi may have been the option if the threat level had decreased at that point.
Yeah. And would those kinds of decisions be made by Meghan and Harry, or would they be made by somebody leading their security protection? I suppose, how much control would Meghan and Harry themselves have had over that situation?
They have a protection team, and a protection team of professionals for the reason that they are the professionals within that sector. Yes, you will converse with your principals, but they shouldn't be dictating tactics to you as a professional. From a Duke of Sussex's perspective, he knows a lot about protection. The royal family have cradle to grave protection, so he would be fully aware of what that should look like, what its limitations are, and what his expectations are also as well. But I think it does come down to the team leader to devise that strategy and then implement the strategy with the with the rest of the team, because ultimately the buck stops with him. He is the team leader and responsible for the security and safety of those principles.